7 p.m. We have minutes to review. What's the pleasure of the board?
Also move, Mr. Chairman, we accept the minutes that have been presented to us for review.
Minutes have been moved, seconded by Mr. Ferrantino. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. We have a common victualler license hearing. I don't see the parties here. No, we have two tonight, Judge. But I'd accept a motion to go out of order so that we could have Judge Fallon second. Any discussions? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Common victualler.
That's a hearing motion.
The first one, they didn't even sign the application.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we go out of order.
Is there a second to that? Move out of order.
Sure. Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Castillo, Judge Fallon, would you please come up, and when Mr. Sargent comes in, we'll have you give him the appropriate swearing in of Dennis. We've moved to have Mr. Castillo and Mr. Mendoza come before us out of order due to the first party not showing up. Motion of the board. Do we need to swear them in or anything?
No.
Okay, Mr. Fallon, Judge Fallon, if you'd come forward and tell us of your changes.
Mr. Chairman, Thomas F. Fallon, I'm an attorney in the town of Clinton. And we were here on a previous occasion in regard to a restaurant license on High Street. At this particular time, we would like to withdraw that application and submit one and instead for a victualler license.
Any questions of the board?
Yeah, I know that it says here that you couldn't comply to make it a restaurant, so what do you intend to sell?
That's going to be a grocery store.
Just a regular?
Just regular grocery.
Okay.
Pleasure of the board. Any further questions?
No.
Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to approve the application.
Motion by
I'll
Mr.
second that.
Healy, seconded by Ms. Dickow. Any further discussion? No. Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, congratulations.
Thank you kindly. Thank you
See you.
very much. Have a pleasant evening.
You too.
In a short one.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We will be canceling, okay. 7:15 on the docket for Mr. Nietzsche. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to continue. My understand, I just spoke to him on the way in.
Okay.
My understanding is he was supposed to submit something in writing to Mr. Hergen. And I don't know if that's, is Bentley here or?
Well, we have a letter that Bentley just gave us. Did you get a copy of it?
I didn't get a copy of it.
I'm sorry, he gave it me.
I can.
We have copies.
Copy for the
Yeah.
Can we go forward with this hearing?
Is he present? Did he?
No, they agreed to come back at a later date. They didn't get a chance to catch up with each other to go over the,
Yeah, because my understanding was at the last board meeting that the board had determined that they wanted to get a written opinion from Bentley with regard to the zoning issue. And they had asked Mr. Nishi if he had any information to get to Bentley, that he should get that to him.
Yeah. So my motion still stands to continue.
okay. Is there a second to that?
Well,
Wait a minute.
I'll second it, but just under the discussion. Even if this was to go for opinion, this board still has the right whether to say they want to increase the number of vehicles or not. So, I mean, you could just keep this going and going and going. I mean, at some point in time, the board has to decide whether you want to increase the number of vehicles or not.
Well, I think we
I
expressed
mean, I know
our-
he left at this point, and I understand that I don't think it's fair to move on any of the action now because he has left, but I mean, this is, I think, the third or fourth time that this issue has come before the board at this particular time. It really, I mean, you're going around and around, and ultimately, it's going to be the board that decides whether they want to or not.
Yeah,
There are two separate issues. The zoning issue, if he's going to expand the use significantly, then the statute requires that he get a special permit from the zoning board of appeals. That's my opinion. Bentley is the one that makes the decision as the zoning enforcement
Right.
agent. The board's decision will be whether or not you're going to increase the number of vehicles, and that's separate and distinct from the actual special permit issue. So the zoning board doesn't determine how many cars he can have, they're just going to determine if he's allowed to get a special permit for the expansion of the use.
Right, and does that include the fact that there's been a flower shop and plants and all of whatever is being sold out there? Is that what
Well-
we're talking, is that all coming into this talk and discussion with the ZBA?
The issue, if it does go to the ZBA, would be, Bentley would be giving his opinion on the expansion of the use for the sale of the vehicles, and they would be making determination on that. He made a separate determination on the other uses of the property, and he believes that it violates zoning. So that would be a separate enforcement action.
And that's an
like
ongoing
that.
issue.
That would be a separate issue, correct. But your issue is, are you going to expand the number of vehicles? And the question is, if you're going to expand them, if you're inclined, if the board's inclined to vote to extend the number of vehicles, and Bentley determines that it violates zoning, then he's not going to be able to expand the number of vehicles until he gets the special permit from the zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
Sorry, I just didn't get to finish.
Yeah, I did second it, Tony, so.
Yes, I know,
yeah.
so we're still under discussion. I just,
Yeah.
we did kind of just have a discussion about how the board felt, and I think, you know, at least from my perspective, I believe it's a good area to increase the number of cars. However, you know, we didn't think it should be unlimited, or at least I didn't think.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right up front, I'm not in favor of increasing them. I know that there has been problems for a long, long time in that area with the number of vehicles, and to some extent it got out of control, and so I would just be inclined not to increase it.
So I mean, even going to Mayor Selectman Dickout's point, I mean, even going through all this, I mean, in the end, we decide, right, on the number of cars.
Yes.
Correct.
So for the
Yes,
license.
but if you decide to double or triple the number of cars, and Bentley makes a determination that that is an expansion of a non-conforming use that requires a special permit, then lawfully he wouldn't be able to have that additional number of vehicles without getting a special permit from the zoning board of appeals.
Okay. Any further discussion?
So we could make a decision on that, really wanted to tonight.
I'm sorry?
I said we could really make a decision on that tonight if we wanted to,
Sure you could.
because it would have to go through the proper channels anyway.
Right, if you vote to approve the expansion of the number of vehicles, you can make it subject to complying with the zoning bylaw, because you're going to have to comply with it anyway. And then if you vote not to extend the number of vehicles, then the second issue becomes a moot issue.
So I mean, if the board's prepared to vote, I mean, I'm willing to withdraw my motion, so.
Okay, I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
So I withdraw my motion, and, I mean, can make a motion, I'll make a motion to approve expansion to 14 vehicles
Zoning board approval.
per zoning board approval.
I'll second.
There's a motion to approve the application to 14 vehicles?
That's what he said.
Any discussion?
Just under discussion, my view is that I think 14 may be a little bit too many for that lot. With what he's doing up there as far as additional businesses that he's opening without the proper permits, I'm not inclined to increase. That's just my view, so.
Under discussion, I believe at the last meeting, he had mentioned that he was going to get rid of all that if he was given the
Yeah, I don't remember.
Go
I don't
ahead.
remember him saying that.
go-ahead for 14 vehicles.
Believe me, Joe, in the years I've been here, we've had a lot of people tell us a lot of things that they're going to do.
Well, then we have the right to take them back too, right?
Yeah.
If it were to pass. You know, I don't want to stop somebody from earning a living either, you know, and that was permitted for 14 vehicles at one time before he owned it by another owner. You know, I think he's kept it in fairly good shape, you know,
And he's tried different avenues to use that property to run a business, and he's, quite frankly, struggled with the local
Well,
government.
again, I'd have to concur with Kevin. I think it's an awfully tight area, and I know that what happened over there in the past. And, 6 vehicles, if you can sell 6 vehicles, you can always replace your 6 vehicles with 6 more. But anyways, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sell vehicles, used or new, or I buy them, but I don't know, the business, but I'm going to take the information I've had from,
Excuse me. Why are you continuing my hearing and sending me home?
We're not.
We're not. It's at the discretion of the board.
I watched it on TV. It shouldn't even be explained until I'm here.
Whatever direction the board is going, right now, the board is in your favor of.
I realize it. I just think that was rotten.
I tried to have it continued, Mr. Nietzsche.
Well, that's what they told me, it was continued. That's why I
Mr.
went home.
Mr. Heegert gave me a letter asking me to give you another chance to come in so that you two could sit down and go over what the direction of the board is to move.
And basically, this has nothing to do with zoning board of appeals or anything. The license has been there for 60 years. It's got nothing to do with that. You guys broke the law when you put a number on the license.
Please,
Yes, Mayor, you.
Mr. Nietzsche, please, Mr. Nietzsche. I will not have any personal attacks on any of the board members. Address the chair, please.
I'm sorry.
That's our
I'm just pretty heated
responsibility.
right
We
now.
can put a number on
Yes.
any license that there is in this community. That's our responsibility.
Okay.
That's right. As I understand it, this is the licensing
Authority.
not the board of appeals,
No,
not anybody,
no.
other than you people. I just think it was pretty rotten to go ahead without me. And
Actually, you were doing pretty good until you came in the door.
I realize the more controversy Mr. Sargent can cause over this, if we have to...
Mr. Sargent, again, Mr. Nietzsche, Mr. Nietzsche. Mr. Sargent, our town solicitor, has not brought your name up at all. 2 selectmen have asked to move forward to increase your cars at your place of business. They're trying to help you
Exactly.
save your business. Now you come in and you cause a public outburst and you insult board members, and now you're attacking our town council. We're trying to help you.
I realize that, but I'm insulted that you went ahead without me.
Mr. Nietzsche, the 2 members of the board wanted to move forward to help you with your business plight. They thought they were helping you. They weren't trying to hurt you.
Well, from what I heard from one member, it didn't sound like it was helped.
Well, you only heard one little blurb.
And this is the kind of narrow-minded thinking that this town doesn't need.
Mr. Chairman, one comment that Mr. Nietzsche did make, I need to correct because it's incorrect.
Yes.
And that is that he's making an allegation that the board illegally put a restriction on the license for the number of vehicles. As a licensing authority, separate and distinct from the zoning bylaw, this board has the absolute right to restrict the number of vehicles at any location for any license. Zoning doesn't determine the number of vehicles that you have at the location. What it does determine is your use and the expansion of a use. And that's what we're talking about, because he wants to double the size of his license, or maybe even triple it.
Don't want to know.
Well, if it's going from 6 to 14, that's more than doubling it.
I want it to be put back where it should be, under non-conforming, able to continue as usual. It says no limit, 1 story cement block building. And I have a document from 1958 and 59.
And with all due respect to Mr. Nishi, he's incorrect on the statement of the law, but he certainly, based upon whatever the board does, has a right to appeal it to the appropriate authorities if that's what he so chooses.
Thank you. So duly noted for the record.
I'm sorry for the outburst, it's just I went home and turned the TV on, and I saw you guys discussing this, and I heard some comments that just set me off. So I am going to submit a thing to Mr. Hebert, and we'll go forward from there. I'm sorry if
So duly noted, Mr. Nietzsche.
Thank you.
Where were we now? Refresh me. We were two to
Motion on the
move.
table.
Yeah.
discussion.
There was discussion, there's more discussion. What's the pleasure of the board, or do you still want to discuss openly?
Well, I don't, I have a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
So, okay, Mr. Ferrantino has opted to withdraw his motion. Is there a second? Who seconded it? Second.
I did. I'll withdraw my second, and I will make a motion to continue this hearing until our next meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
No?
Under discussion, I will duly note that I believe everybody deserves their day in court. So with that, the pleasure of the board to continue.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Two nay, two, you want to
No.
move forward? Okay. It's unanimous, we'll move forward. Okay.
I mean, again, I think we got every right to go forward, and, but I don't have any problem, you know.
Afford him his day in
Sure,
court, as he
absolutely,
said.
absolutely.
Mr. Lowe, you'll be brief. And I'm just going to, before you start, Connie, I am going to abstain because this loan affects a direct competitor of mine. So Joyce, if you would note for the record under Chapter 268, Section A, Section 19, as advised by the State Ethics Commission, I will leave the room while there is discussion regarding this venture.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
the agenda states we have a proposed UDAG loan for 104, the property at 104 Sterling Street, doing business as Lexington LLC. As the board has received a brief description, which I will review. Effectively, this is a loan for $24,800, specifically to go towards new windows and new carpeting for the new location of Breakaway Billiards. I've reviewed and have, as Attorney Sergeant, Mr. and Mrs. Souza's finances. Their finances are very strong. They have very good equity in their property. So as I think the board knows, we place a lien on the property. If the worst ever happened, we can recover a loan based on the lien attached on the property. We would be in second position. I feel that Mr. and Mrs. Souza have been very, very strong and responsible business owners in the town for a good number of years, having reviewed what they're looking to do with the property and their finances. And if you'll note, they've already financed $530,000 for the project. This is an additional $24,800. So this is a very small, relatively speaking, what we would consider to be a bridge loan to help them. And they are creating, as a result of this expansion and consolidation, 6 new part-time jobs, or the equivalent of 3 full-time equivalent jobs in that. So there is a job creation aspect to this as well. I know the board is always concerned about that, as am I. And as I said in some of the prep work for you, if you look at their monthly payments now, if you look at what they'll be paying on this note versus what they were paying for rental in multiple locations, it's actually only incrementally a few $100s more a month, which for a note of this size is really not a substantial percentage increase. So again, I'm very comfortable with this loan, having met with them a few times. As you probably have read in the papers, they are looking at bringing in other business down there and some of the vacant space they have. Any incremental revenue from that is not factored into my decision that this note can be supported now. So any business expansion down there would only increase their ability to comfortably repay this.
Thank you. Thank you also for answering my questions the other day on this. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Anytime any board members have any questions, I'm always happy to try to clarify things.
Do we have a motion from Mr.
Yeah, I'll
Lowe?
move that we give Community Economic Development Director the go-ahead to go forward with the request.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, under discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
We're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have the next agenda item as well. Should I ask the chairman to step back in?
Yeah, he may want to.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have more jobs fund grant application.
Yes, as the board, I think, is aware by now, our More Jobs Fund application was approved by the state for the amount of $665,000, which will allow us to go out and manage a project whereby we will improve drainage on the property of Nipro. We will also create approximately 30 new parking spaces on Pleasant Street on town property, and we will create access via a stairway from Pleasant Street down into the Nipro Park property. So really the crux of this was 100 new jobs, which is what Nipro's committing to create, are wonderful, fantastic actually, but they also have to have a place to park. Parking is getting tight down there also. Chris McGowan came up with a plan to be able to deal with the parking. So again, this was approved. There were 38 applications, 22 of which were approved. And what isn't clear in the press releases is a whole other supplemental round of application that needs to go in to finalize the grant. And as part of that, part of the piece that I need to do, there needs to be a proclamation from the board that authorizes me, that duly authorizes me to go off to submit the final paperwork on behalf of the town. It needs to be signed by every board member, and it needs to be signed off by the town council, indicating in his opinion that this does give me the due authorization from the board. It is strictly a formality, but it is something that's required as part of the application. And I should be having Nipro also needs to fill out some supplemental paperwork, which I believe I will have from them tomorrow. I should have my piece of this, well actually I have my piece completed now, so I should have the application out in the mail by the end of the week. So if the board would please, and I think you have a copy of this in your packet.
Yeah.
If the board could make a motion to authorize me, and then I would ask that all of you sign it while I'm here, if you wouldn't mind, just so I can get it back to my office.
Sure.
Hey,
Can we entertain a motion?
yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Lowe's More Jobs proclamation and sign it.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Under discussion, any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved, Johnny.
I believe we should also be able to find out, Mr. Chairman, by the end of August, if not before the end of August, whether or not our final CDAG application has been approved for $981,000 for the same general target area. I did a sensing with the state today as where that timeline is, and it looks like probably mid-August. And you never get a final answer until all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, but I'm feeling very positive about that one as well. So between the More Jobs Fund and that CDAG, if it's approved, we'll be getting from the state $1.6 million to improve infrastructure, both on town property and in the More Jobs Fund case on Nipro property. So I'm very, very, very excited about that.
Thank you, Johnny.
All good news.
Does anyone have any questions for me?
No?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Law.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Don.
Do we have to approve that? Johnny, while you're still here,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
there's a document that came in regarding salary increases. Do you need the approval of the board for that? Is that just an FYI?
That is an FYI, that's a
Okay.
procedural thing that as a result
Okay.
of town meeting. Unless you want to throw in, several thousand more than, that we need to.
Donnie, I wish we could if we could.
Get it, Mr. Chairman?
Well deserved, well
I'm
deserved.
happy.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Sam. Okay, could I have a motion to table the South Meadow boat ramp discussion due to a letter we've received in our packets?
Sure. I'll make a motion to table the South Meadow Boat Ramp discussion based on the letter we received from from James and Paula Nedved.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Being none, I'm sorry.
I'm just want to understand where we go from here.
Well, Michael has talked to Mr. Shepherd, and Mr. Shepherd said because they do not want to offer an expansion of more property to purchase,
Yeah.
and due to the wetland restrictions, they didn't want to move forward to accommodate the town with any more land. Although there is a hearing coming up next week, I believe, with the Conservation Commission regarding the boat ramp issue. I think Michael wanted to wait and see where we will be as a town at that juncture, because they still have not received approval from the Conservation Commission. But they do not want to buy any more, they do not want to offer any more land to the
Our
town.
local conservation commission?
Yes, our local. Under public comment, I could,
Yeah, so we're still under discussion?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just, so the board's aware, I mean, we have a couple committees in town that are active today with the Master Plan Committee and the Open Space Subcommittee from the Conservation Commission, which is creating the open space plan. Both of those plans call out for the South Meadow Pond area to have, access to the ponds through a boat ramp. It doesn't specifically say trailer boat, but that's kind of, the notion that folks have talked about at the public forums that I've attended regarding, South Meadow Pond and the master plan. So I'm very comfortable in saying that, this is something that we can't just ignore and let just pass by. We need to, this will just come up again. So,
Right.
We need to, at town meeting, we voted to appropriate the monies to figure out what to do about access to South Meadow Pond, and I think, we got to act on it. So just wanted to, under discussion, to make sure all, members are aware that these things are in plans that are, under comment
Yeah.
today. So.
But this issue that we were going to discuss tonight really is a moot point. I mean, there's no reason to go on with this particular discussion, but I understand what you're saying as
Yeah.
far as...
Yeah, I mean, tabling it doesn't imply,
Oh, no, not at all.
yeah,
Michael just felt that at this point in juncture that it would be a moot point to go forward with any discussion with bringing Mr. Shepherd in, because Mr. Shepherd didn't want to come in unless he knew we were going to negotiate to expand the area.
okay.
And the letter that we've received clearly depicts that that's not something they're interested in doing, and they own the property. Unless we wanted to exercise eminent domain, and I don't know if we'd fall into the category to do something like that. So Michael wanted to wait and see where we were with the Conservation Commission and what they felt the next steps the DCR would have to take. What restrictions, how much smaller it's going to be, and what have you. And then when we have all our information, then we would come back and address this issue.
Okay.
Okay? All those in favor of tabling? Aye. Okay. We're going to move forward on open space and recreation plan discussion. And I think, Joe, you're instrumental in updating us on that.
Actually,
Is anyone,
what's that?
is anyone here to talk about that?
Yeah, I believe someone was supposed to be here from the Open Space Committee. This is a lot different from the Open Space
Well,
Acquisition
we're a little
Committee,
early.
But,
Is it 8 o'clock yet? Do you want to table it and just
Well,
take care of other business?
Just, I know I got the document on Friday evening. I did start going through it, and it's very, very detailed. So I know Mr. Chairman said that we were going to meet on August 8th. Can we table this and get into anything more discussion on need?
It's imperative that that we write a letter endorsing this prior to submitting the self-help grant for the Rochester Farm,
What's the date on that, Joe?
July 31st.
July
Is the
31st?
last date of submittal. I've read the whole thing, and my understanding is this is basically the plan that we had. It expired, and they took that plan and they updated, a lot of it was section 8. I believe it was uses. I believe it was a use section of it.
What page, do you know what page that?
I don't know what page it starts
Goals,
on.
objectives, or aims.
It ends on page 54 and it starts on,
It ends on 54?
section 8 starts,
Yeah, page 56, section
56, it's 2 pages.
I did read it through, and my understanding is they're going to meet on July 25th to finalize it and send it off to the state. And that's why they needed approval tonight on it. That's why they had sent it out early.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, myself, I've been involved with it through the master plan committee. So I've gone through it a couple
Okay,
times.
so you guys are comfortable with going forward?
Yes,
Okay.
I've read through
All
it.
right, then, yeah, no one's going to be in here tonight.
Is someone coming to talk to us? How early are we on, what time frame? We gotta get a clock in here, Joe.
Well, I mean, I think it's imperative that if you have a deadline of the 31st, and you guys are on
Yeah.
the committee, they're not comfortable with it. And so I'll move, Mr. Chairman, that
Okay.
we accept the open space and recreation plan that's been
Okay.
submitted to the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
I just believe that we have to submit a letter. The Board of Selectmen has to submit a letter
Prepared.
Supporting.
supporting it.
It's over.
Okay, okay,
Right, Joyce, we have that letter ready? Yeah, it's
very
ready.
good.
And also, under discussion, I just want to thank the members of the Open Space and Recreation Committee, the subcommittee of the Conservation Commission, and the COGS group, I mean, the consultants, they really put a lot of time and effort into this, and it's an excellent plan. And if you get a chance, when it gets released, definitely get a copy of it. So.
I'd like to thank COGS as well, because I believe they went above and beyond the call of duty, and, you know, it wasn't within their scope of work on the master plan to actually do this, but they actually took the time and effort to help the town go that extra mile, so, and the people in town that were involved with it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I didn't get it till Tuesday.
Administrative business. What's the pleasure of the board with regard to late-night closings for the following establishments requesting late-night closing is Saturdays for the month of August 2007, Clinton Lodge of Elks, Crystal Cafe, Ale House Grill, Ringside Cafe, Scooby-Doo's.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We have an outstanding invoice from Earth Tech that's been submitted. It's the pleasure of the board. It's in the amount of, is that $2,000, Chris?
5,600.
56.
Oh, it's 2 of them, okay, sorry. $5,637.90. It's a pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I thought we were pretty much done with these guys.
We are. Half of this bill is, has to do with SRF funding and going after some additional funding for some of the labor bills, and that's about half of it. The other half is still in closeout mode and still trying to do some additional site visits. This is, I think it's 3 months worth of invoices, so they're going to continue for a while. I mean, we'll have our tech involved with the plant as questions comes up and problems come up. Continuously. It's getting to a point now where it's more operations instead of part of the project. This one was really part of the project, a lot of it because of the SRF funding. So the future ones will just probably handle out of the water sewer enterprise fund, but this was more, still had to do with the project for the most part. So.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a request from the Town Hall Use Committee. The Town Hall Use Commission is recommending approval for the Holiday Pops Foundation to be held December 8th, 2007. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, please. We have the pleasure of the board to accept the Fire Chief's monthly report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that. Under
discussion?
discussion. I've seen this fire alarm thing on here for like the last 2 years.
He's all asked the same
And
question.
I'd like to put that to bed and have Mr. Boudry come in and address the matter.
Sure. Could we have Mr. Boudry and Fire Chief Hart in at our next meeting, Joyce? Thank you. Any other discussion? All right. Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public Works monthly report. Pleasure of the board.
I move to accept DPW monthly report.
Is there a second to that?
Just, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Under discussion?
Just
Yeah.
on the discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Tony, I'll use you.
All right, I had a question on, Chris, since you're here. The Ridgefield complex, I mean, is that on their property or?
It's on their property, it's a force main from the Kent Street pump station, so basically everything up in that area pumps from, there's a pump station at the end of Kent Street that pumps through their property up to Woodruff Road, actually. So it is on their property, not the easiest accessibility either. We have an easement, but...
Okay, so there is an easement?
Pumps up through the wood, yeah, we do have an easement, but it is pretty difficult to access. I guess there used to be an old dirt
There's a
road
road.
that went up through there before they built
Yep.
the complex, and they worked around it when they built the complex. And it's kind of, we got a little investigation to do before we know the extent of the issue. It's an old AC, asbestos concrete pipe, and we're gonna have to try to, just finding the leak is gonna be a little bit of an issue, you know? It's not like a water leak where it's gonna start bubbling up out of the ground, because it's really under a little bit of pressure, but the blow dryer is open-ended at the other end, so.
Okay. The other thing, I just wanted to thank you. I saw on Grove Street, it looks like you fixed that. There was a leak coming down the hill, and now it's
Yeah.
properly tapped into the...
Yeah, we did, we found an old drain plan that showed that there was a pipe at one point, not even that old really, but there was a pipe that went up past there. So we ended up putting a small catch basin in there, so the water that's coming out of that hill has been coming out forever. We'll go into that catch basin, tie in the drain line, so we won't have the ice problem.
Yeah.
One of our biggest ice problems in town.
Yeah, that was...
I know you and Bob know, because you go by it every day.
Is
but
that the French drain?
It's probably one of the worst
Yeah.
ice problems we
Yes,
have.
it is.
So,
I was very happy to see.
yeah.
Ed Friel was out there. Yeah, that was really, really good.
Okay.
Just under discussion,
Yeah.
again, I know I said this when I saw your first report, I think it's outstanding, Chris. And I know you're talking about your status of the grants that are ongoing, and I have to commend you and Donnie for being so proactive, and I think if, we're successful in getting any of these grants, it'd be just incredible. Yeah, so great job.
That's good, yeah, Donnie's done a lot of hard work on the grants, so, okay, good.
Good job.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
A lot of other stuff is informational. Without letting the cat out of the bag on the birthday celebration, is everybody okay with that? Could I have that in the form of a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion other than wishing that woman well? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I did talk it over with Mary Rose about the senior tax abatement, and we want to see what the scheduling issues are. That was information. Okay. So we're going to see what the scheduling is for the senior tax abatement to accommodate a representative from the Board of Selectmen. Then we have to move forward with appointments. What's the pleasure of the board? There were some appointments, letters of interest that came in late. Does the board want to accept all? Do you want to just accept the ones that came in under the deadline? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mike? I mean, for me, I went through them, and there's one in there that, actually, I was kind of happy to see that it was for the Conservation Commission. Greg Sandberg had sent one in, but I think we should accept all of them if we're going to accept one, so.
I would agree with Tony, Mr. Chairman. I think
Okay.
in the summertime, I think people away on vacation, you know, and they may have post office boxes and things like that, maybe not have gotten to their mail, so if that's in the form of a motion, Tony, I'll second it.
Okay, so moved, yes.
Okay. Any discussion other than what Mary Rose noted?
Just thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will begin with Zoning Board of Appeals. One person applied.
Motion on that, Mr. Chairman.
I would ask that people make motions, and we will.
We make a motion to accept Mr. Martini's,
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of Robert Latini serving on the zoning board?
Aye.
It's unanimous. I will make note right now for the record, and I gave a copy of it to Joyce. This evening, we received a letter from David Baird asking to take his name out of the running for the Retirement Commission, and we also received a letter from Robert E. Champagne of 269 Oak Street asking that his name be taken out. So that will be duly noted for the record. Next on the list is we have Fuller Field Commission. 2 applicants applied. We have Peter McNally and we have Anders Rasmussen. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman, I'll move Peter McNally.
Is there, okay, there's a nomination for Peter McNally. Are there any other nominations? Being none, I would make a motion that we close nominations.
So moved.
So moved.
Any second? Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor of Peter McNally for the Fuller Field Commission?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Conservation Commission, there were 3 applicants. What is the pleasure of the board? We have Barbara Laughlin, John Woodsmall, and Greg Sandberg.
Nominate Greg Sandberg. Sorry.
Okay, there's a nomination for Greg Sandberg. Is there any other nominations?
Are you going to do them, there's two positions, are you going to do them both at once, or?
That would probably be easier.
Okay, then I would like to nominate John Woodsmall.
Okay, nomination for John Woodsmall. Are there any other nominations? I'd ask that we close nominations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of John Woodsmall?
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor of Greg Sandberg?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck. Historical Commission, in talking with Michael Ward and with the lateness of Christine Quirk being on vacation, who's a longtime member of the committee, Michael said we could entertain as many people as we want, and we did have a newcomer show interest in that, Richard Thompson. It's a pleasure of the board in making the committee bigger. Would anybody like to make a motion to move to expand?
I'll just, I'll move to expand it so that we can accommodate all of the
Okay.
people that are.
Is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. All those in, any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing it's self-explanatory, we're all 4, we'll be putting on, I'd entertain a motion to appoint all 4 members
So
to
moved.
the Historical Commission. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have the, next up is the Personnel Board. We have Mary Ann Castile, Mary Slakowski, Fred Johnson, Willie Vasquez Paul. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move Mary Ann Castillo.
Okay.
And I'd like to nominate Mary Sikowski.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Fred Johnson.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
How many positions on this one, too?
Two. Okay,
Well, I'll move, Mr. Chairman, Wilfred.
okay. Wilfred Vasquez Paul.
Yep.
Okay. I will ask for motion to, motion to close nominations.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? All those in favor of Mary Ann Castillo?
Aye.
Okay. All those in favor of Mary Slakowski?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor of Willie Vasquez Paul?
Aye.
Okay. All those in favor of Fred Johnson?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have Mary Slakowski and Fred Johnson on the Personnel Board. Again, with the Weeks Fund trustees, Michael also said the more the merrier. We have had 4 applicants. I'd entertain a motion that we would appoint all those 4.
So moved.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll appoint all 4. Mrs. Kamataris is self-explanatory. She's the only one that applied. I'd entertain a motion and again thank her for her dedication to the town.
I'd make that motion, accept Ruth.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of Mrs. Kamataris on the Cultural Council?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We still are looking for a representative of the Montechusett Opportunity Council. Motion to...
You can keep Kevin as he did.
He sent a letter of resignation, should be stapled to your... We'll move down to the MRPC alternate. Johnny Lowe is the only one that has applied for that. What's the pleasure of the board?
Keep
John
Don.
Lowe.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
MJTC member, Christopher McCollum's a lucky guy. We formally have to put you on there, Chris? Okay. A motion to appoint Chris McGowan to the, what is MJ? What, Massachusetts? Okay, whatever it is.
Automatic, so.
Okay. Accept the motion. Okay, moved. Is there a second?
That was a test.
A second?
So moved. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion being made? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're still looking for Town Hall Use Committee. Retirement Board, we've had 2 people withdraw their names, Robert Champagne and David Baird. Do we have any nominations for Retirement Board?
I would nominate George Kittredge.
Okay.
And I would like to nominate Joseph Casasano.
Okay. Ask for a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
George Kittredge,
Aye.
Aye.
Joseph Casasano.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Director of Emergency Management. We have, does everybody have a letter from Douglas Henry added his name to? Okay. That one just came in late. Could you make copies for us, Dennis?
I don't think we need copies of this.
Okay.
You have that?
He's got copies for me on here. Everybody a chance to read that. what's the pleasure of the board, the Director of Emergency Management?
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Just finish reading this.
Any nominations?
I'll nominate Mr. Zepantis.
Okay. Constantino Zepanthis has been nominated. Any other nominations? Being none, I'd ask for,
I'll nominate Richard Brown.
okay, Richard Brown. Okay, I ask for a motion to close nominations unless there are any further nominations.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Richard Brown?
You gotta go in order, right?
No.
Let's go in order of
I'm sorry.
nominations. yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Constantino Zepanthis?
Aye.
Aye. Richard Brown?
We've already got to.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's it for nominations and appointments. Joyce, if we just make note that we do still need to advertise Montechusett Opportunity Council and the Town Hall Use Committee.
Some information on county plans.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much. Yep. So Joyce, we will send a letter out to everybody notifying them we've been appointed. Okay. Any public comment? Do you have any public comment? Yeah. Can we just hold off once? I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you off. Committee reports? I would-
Mr. Chairman, on the, excuse me, committees, it isn't a report, because obviously I'm not on the committee yet, but I know that they were looking for volunteers off the board for the cemetery committee, and I'd like to request the board to allow me the opportunity to serve with the people that are on the committee. So,
No problem. Sure.
I'll make a motion that Selectman Dickow be appointed to the cemetery committee.
Is there a second? Second. Any further any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye.
thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Robert Kane, Cross Street. I'd just like to talk to the board about some recent events with South Meadow Pond Sports. I didn't get a chance to review the letter that you folks received, so I'm just going to go right now. Back in December, I met with the Department of Fish and Game in Westboro, and at that point, Mr. Shepherd had advised me and yourself, Mr. Pasquale, who was there, that if the town wanted access to South Meadow Pond, they would have to pay for it. You heard that, I heard that.
Yep.
At that point, Tony and I did what we could do to try to negotiate a price. There was never a price settled on. I'm not sure if that's the problem. If it's not enough money, I'm not sure. Or if she's just not interested, I haven't seen it.
Can I give
I can, sure, I can give you the letter, Bob. It says, "Dear Mr. Ward, the Clinton Conservation Commission previously required that the footprint of the launch site at South Meadow Pond be made substantially smaller due to the wetland considerations. Therefore, we regret to inform you that there is no more land for sale at this site. Thank you for this matter. James A. Nedved." He CC'd Mr. Shepherd. Mike Ward talked to Mr. Shepherd. Mr. Shepherd didn't feel it was, felt it was a moot point to talk to us until he goes and sits with the Conservation Commission. I believe there's a meeting next week. I see a Conservation Commission member out there, and then after they get whatever information they get from the Conservation Commission next week, they would come back and talk with us and see what our options were.
Okay. Well, I think at this point, I'd like to ask the board to take a little bit more proactive approach to making sure that under the law and through our town attorney, that we're getting what we're supposed to get. I'm a little bit familiar with the law, and I have some questions for Mr. Sargent that I would like to ask. They're before our Conservation Commission again, the second time, to so designate a public access facility within a resource that's within our jurisdiction. The laws that I've read is when the state comes in to place one of those public access facilities in a city or town, there should be a public hearing and the public should have a chance to comment. But the state has put the cart before the horse by providing that deed restriction that allowed the previous owner to have control over the resource that belongs to the public. I'm just not sure that the whole thing from the beginning is okay, and I'd like our town attorney to look into that.
Okay. Do you need that in the form of a motion, Dennis?
Yes.
Entertain a motion?
I would make a motion that Attorney Sergeant please look into the boat ramp issue and the legalities of what the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife has done with regard to the deed restriction,
And
et
the
cetera.
public hearing process.
There's another reason why this access is more important than ever that I'll have to get done.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, and just under discussion, I mean, that if you look into the law, we just want clarification too, that a public hearing should have happened. And
It didn't.
What I can do is I can meet with Bob, subject to the board's request, to get the information from him that he asked, and then I'll review that in conjunction with what the state did to determine what I think.
Also, Dennis, the Attorney General's office came out and had their own investigation, and we never really received any formal notification of the hearing process that we questioned that was flawed at the time. They never gave us, they were going to get back to us and give us a written document. They had an open forum downstairs, and a lot of people showed up, but we never got any formal documentation from them.
What that was at that time, it was a petition to the Attorney General from 10 citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for a reasonable means of access to a great pond. We petitioned them, and what that law read was before the following January, the Attorney General's office would either determine whether there was access to the Great Pond, or they would make recommendations to the legislature to provide access to that Great Pond. Neither one of those things were followed up on by the Attorney General's office. I did get a call back from Nora Mann that suggested that the situation changed and the gate went up, then of course maybe more action would be taken. But at this point, on paper, there's no access because there's a gate on paper. But the attorney's office went up there and looked, and there's physically access. So they couldn't figure out what to do with it, I don't think, at this point. But, you know, we should have some closure to that, and it was supposed to be before the following January, which just passed, and that didn't happen. So I feel as though we had no return of service from the Attorney General's office.
So, to make sure that I answer the appropriate questions, obviously what would be very beneficial would be for Bob to put in writing what his questions are.
Okay.
So that I can make sure that I answer the appropriate concerns that he has and the board has.
Thank you. And there's just one more thing.
Yeah.
Because
well, it's still under discussion. so-
Yeah, we'll move the article. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
we all know that there's a lot going on with Wikipedia at this point. And when negotiations started, there was a more reasonable means of access to those 14 acres. And I just wanted to make you aware, or is it 16 or 17 acres, the peninsula and the
Yeah.
islands?
I know what you mean.
And there still is a more reasonable means of access right now. But if the gate goes up, it's going to limit access to that resource that we're bargaining with the state for the DEP. So it's really not worth as much to us if it's completely landlocked at this point. If that gate goes up. We got access by boat at that point. But if they gate it, then it limits what that is worth to us.
So right now,
I just wanted to make you aware of that.
that's completely landlocked right now. There is no means of access to it over
As
land.
far as I know, it's a private way, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know that area very well.
So just consider that later on tonight when you're doing your executive session thing there, that issue that, it's all part of the same thing. I mean, we had access and we were able to use that. And I used to go out there and park on Blueberry Island with my boat. Of course, you could still do it with a canoe or a kayak, but it's just not what we've been used to. And I feel as though it's changed.
Yeah, and I think one of the goals in the open space plan, starting on page 56, was to interconnect all the open areas. And if you can't get to it, you can't interconnect to it. So.
And I can promise you folks, if we can ever try and work this out somehow, it'll be best for our kids in the long run to be able to use the resource. I would spend more personal time on it to try and secure some state and federal money to clean things up. There's a weed problem. I pretty much know every inch of that place. And, I would try and take it in another direction and maybe form another committee to see what we can do to become part of the open space plan's efforts to share these resources. But if it's limited to the abutters, then there's not going to be a lot of interest by anybody else that's on the pond, and it's not going to have enough of effect because enough people aren't going to be interested in taking care of it. I mean, they'll be there and they will take care of it, but who from the outside would spend any effort on it if they couldn't get access to it? And the other thing is I'd just like to thank the voters for doing the right thing and, wanting to share the resource with all the people it belongs to. It goes back a long, long time that laws were put in place to protect public access to public trust held resources. And just briefly what's happened, I've been on the South Shore lately. All those beaches are owned by the cities and towns. And pretty much if you're not a town resident, you can't get on there, from Quincy down to Plymouth. And what's happening now with development as it spreads inland is it's affecting the lakes and ponds. And it's happening all over the place. It'll cost you $25 to back your boat into Bear Hill and Harvard. There's another beautiful resource at the foot of Mount Wachusett. It's 256 acres of water. It's recently lost to development, and I'm going on and on, so I just feel as though it's, excuse me?
I get your point, though.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
just spread out here from there, And the other thing is we just like to have basically what we grew up with that was provided so graciously over the years by the NFA.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Thanks, Robert.
Mr. Woodsmall?
Good evening, John Woodsmall, 17 James Street, Member Conservation Commission Open Space Plan. I understand that you already endorsed the open space plan, so I don't want to waste your time, but I want to thank you for that. See if you had any questions that you want to have answered.
I have no questions. I want to thank you very much and thank COGS very much for your hard work and getting that done in time so that we can use that to apply for the self-help grant for Russell's Farm. Thank you.
It's been a very interesting experience, but we had a lot of hard work.
Thanks a lot, John.
It's a very nice document too, by the way. I read through it.
But what?
It's a very well done document. I read through it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Under-
Chairman, I'll move
Yeah.
for a 5-minute recess
Sure.
until we
Second.
come back into
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Actually, wow. Okay, we're back in open session, and we will be going into executive session to discuss two issues. The first issue, Dennis is going to give us a brief update on the MWRA water use payment. That's going to be a brief executive session, and then we'll go into executive session, and we will not open back up again to discuss the conservation restriction on the leaky peaky. So, yep.
Sorry, and under the first issue with the MWR.
Right, it'll be under Article 3, right.
The second issue dealing with the leaky peaky restriction will be under Article 6.
Article 6, right. So I'd ask for a roll call vote to go into executive session under Article 3 to discuss the MWRA water payment plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, this requires a roll call vote. Tony Ferrantino?
Aye.
Kevin Haley?
Aye.
Mary Rose Dicko?
Aye.
Joe Notaro?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We will not reconvene. Thank you. Good night.